What is good, my people? Welcome back to another Midwest Day video. Roll that intro. Alright, so today's video is requested by one of my subscribers. You got the quarantine beard going, growing it out. It looks really rough now, but it'll get better. Basically, today's video is requested by... I don't know if you guys can hear that. Niao? I think it's Nile. But anyways, you let me know how it's pronounced, first or second way. Basically, what is going on today? Let me close that window because there's someone cutting grass. Today, what we're doing is basically explaining the tachograph to people. Everything about the tachograph I could possibly explain. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And then, yeah, we're going to go explain all of that to the best of my ability. Now, keep in mind, this is how I did it. I drove for 2.5 years on the road, never got a violation for hours of service violation in Europe. So do keep this in mind when I'm doing it. This is the way I do it. If you do it another way, that's fantastic, as long as you don't get a ticket, right, fellas? But I'm going to do it to the best of my ability the way I did it. Take 8. Action! So basically we have daily driving time. This is the time that is allowed for you to be driven. The industry allows you to drive 9 hours a day. However, that could be extended to 10 hours 2 times a week. So you could drive 10 hours for 2 times a week, and I'll explain how the week works and everything later. And one shift could only be 4 hours and 30 minutes. That's as long as you could drive before taking a break. Again, we'll explain that later. This is pretty simple. You drive for 9 hours if you can. And I'll tell you how you could put in this 10-hour one too, but that's going to be on our next phase. And the camera might move every time I go down just because I don't want to redo every chapter over and over again. So we're going to move down to the next one, daily rest. On average, the industry wants you to rest for 11 hours a day. However, you can shorten that to 9 hours 3 times a week. Now, these two go hand in hand almost. Again, we're going to go a little bit further down. This will all make sense for you later. So let's keep on moving down. We have overall workday. Now, this is where... You sneaky bastards. Already skipping in class, I see. Trying to get to the next section. That's why you don't learn. Stay focused. All right. So overall workday, 15 hours or 13 hours. Now, this all comes into one. So if you work a 15-hour day, well, guess what? You're sleeping for 9. If you run out of 9 hours a week, so if you use all 3, you no longer could work 15 hours a day. That just no longer is allowed. You're going to have to work a 13-hour. Because in places like Poland, the Czech Republic, places like that, they add up your day, what you slept, and what you worked. So, for example, if they add 9 to 15, it's going to go over 24 hours. It cannot go over 24 hours in those countries, or else you probably will get a fine. Fun fact, you don't get a fine for over driving, you get a fine for oversleeping. No, not sleeping enough. That's the one. So if you drive for 13 hours and obviously sleep for 11 hours, you're going to make 24 hours. If you do the same thing with 15 hours and 9 hours, you're going to make 24 hours. So that is important. This is the most important thing you could do. Obviously, people will be like, oh, well, I drive for 26 hours and sleep for 2 hours and I don't get a fine. Good for you. Listen here. This ain't the Wild West, all right? This is how it's done. This is how I did it. I've never gotten a fine for sleeping. And actually, this step right here took me a long time to figure out myself. Thank God I never got a ticket. So that's how it works. You got to make sure that these match up. So that's how you know what you could work that day. And this is your overall work time. Like that's not drive. That's like waiting to get loaded, driving, your breaks. Everything goes into this 15 hours. So you got to make sure you plan your day accordingly. If you know you ain't got no 9 hours left, you're only working 13 hours. And if you do that, you should be fine and you shouldn't get a fine. So I hope you understand this concept. If not, post some comments down in the comments down below, which is right down there. Also, if you're enjoying the video, like, comment, subscribe, because apparently that shit works. I don't know. Let's continue. Here you go, you bastards, you nosy bastards. We're into the next topic, which is driving first and second week. We're going to start actually this way because it makes more sense. So you can only drive 90 hours for 2 weeks, which means you're allowed 56 hours of driving time the first week, and that means that it would only leave you with 34 hours the second week. I've worked for 2.5 years. Very rarely would I hit this 90 hours. I think I've almost hit it like maybe 3 times in total, but you barely ever hit that. You barely ever hit that because usually there's time left from this one, so it could go into the other one. The most important thing is you don't go over 90 hours that week. you don't go over 56 hours that week. That week will be whatever's left from that one, because if you can't go over that, obviously this one's not going to go over either. But that's technically how they list it in the law book. Is I dropped my pen. Where is it? Okay, there we go. Professionals out here. So a good rule of thumb is just, make sure you don't drive over 56 hours this a week, and in total for 2 weeks you don't drive over 90. You should be fine. Also, shout out to the wife and her handwriting, because mine looks like a potato, but her numbers are kind of whack. In the comments, let me know if it does look kind of whack. Anyways, we have these little thingies down here. We're going to talk about those later. All right, on to the next chapter, driving time breaks. You're going to have to take these, obviously, after these breaks right here, after the driving time. So, like I said, only a shift could be 4 hours and 30 minutes. It could be less, it could be more, but I'll explain now. So, we have driving time breaks. We have the first option. You drive for 4 hours and 30 minutes. Take a 45-minute break. Usually you want to do a 46-minute break, because some tachographs are weird and they'll say that you didn't do a minute and then it's like you didn't do a break at all. So usually I wait for mine to roll over to 46 minutes and then I go. But to each their own. But that would be a recommendation I would give you guys. Don't do a 45-minute break. Just do a 40. Yeah, don't do a 56. Your boss might not be happy with you. Why you been standing there for an extra 11 minutes? I don't know. This guy on the internet told me. Anyways, don't do that. Do 46. You should be fine. Or you have another option. You could split these however you want. I'm pretty sure you can go over 2 hours and 30 minutes, but I just did it this way because it makes the most sense, because it would equal that. You could drive for 2 hours and 15 minutes or 2 hours and 30 minutes, up to you. Do a 15-minute break and then drive another 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Yeah, drive it 2 minutes and just do a 30-minute break. Why not? No, drive another 2 hours and 15 minutes and you could do a 30-minute break. Now, here's the thing with these two breaks. This break can never be bigger than this break. So if you do a 29-minute break here, you can't just stop and do the rest here. This break always has to be less than this one. So if you stopped here and did, let's say, a 35-minute break, you're doing a 36-minute break here. It's just how it is. I know it's weird, but that's just how it is. So there's that. That's another way you could break it down. All right, so now we're going to move on to the weekly rest. This is at the end of your week, and I'll explain you how your week works later as well. So here it is. Your week starts Monday midnight GMT time, which means if you run out of hours on a Thursday, you're sitting there until Monday midnight GMT. Again, everywhere just add a minute to like all of these. So if you're doing a 31-minute break up here, just add a minute. If you're doing a 15-minute break, just add 16. Just do 16. Just add a minute everywhere, because the tachograph is sometimes weird and it just does things like that. So you have a 45-hour break that you're supposed to do at the end of your week. However, that is sometimes shortened to 24-hour break, and you're supposed to compensate that to make it 45 within the week. So that means you sleep longer. Instead of doing a 9-hour break, you do like a 10-hour break. Instead of doing an 11-hour break, you do like a 13. But you're supposed to compensate that. I'm going to be honest with you. Most companies, at least in my country, do not compensate this at all. Like at all. So it's not been a problem, but I could see how that could be a little bit of a problem later on in the road. But that's how we do it. So like if a driver starts his, let's say his trip, he'll do 24 hours the first week. Unless there's no freight, he'll do 45. But usually how it will go 24, 45, 24, 25. What? 24, 45. I know I said 25, but anyways. And that's how he will just keep on going. He'll just keep on interchanging these every week, because you're not allowed to do it each week in a row. So you can only do this once every 2 weeks. And then you're supposed to compensate, which no one ever does. But if you want to be legal as possible, you could compensate that. Or you could, when you're doing this break, sometimes you'll stand there longer than 45 hours. So sometimes this will compensate. So it's weird. But usually that's how it goes. 24, 45, 24, 25, 45, and it just keeps on going like that until the driver gets home. So the next thing I'm going to explain is how the week works. This is basically how it works. So let's say the driver started on Monday at 7 a.m. 7 a.m. on a Monday. So if he started on Monday at 7, he can technically drive until Sunday 7 a.m. At 7 a.m. on Sunday, he needs to stop and do that weekly rest we just talked about. He cannot drive longer than Sunday at 7 a.m. Even if you have time, they don't care. You have to stop, and that means you have to sit there at least until Monday midnight GMT. If you started, let's say, Sunday, That's going up until Saturday, and then you're sitting until Monday to get your time back. So that's just how it works. That's just how it is. Sometimes if you know you're low on hours, you want to plan as close to Monday as you can so you can get that time back so you can start driving. I have had scenarios where I've started on Sunday at like 7 and I need to stop at Saturday at 7, and then I have to sit there until Monday just to get my time back. So that is that. If you have any questions in the comments down below, and we're going to go back to those little logo thingies and I'll explain all of those. So the last thing I'm going to explain are these 3 little symbols. What you need to know, unless you're driving 2 team, you don't need the symbol. This symbol means you are at work, but you are not driving. So usually people that do two drivers, usually when his card is in the tachograph on the second person, it will show this logo. If you drive single, you'll never need it. This one will automatically show up. Oh, actually, I forgot the most important one. The most important one. How dare I forget sleep? Anyways, so you see, I ain't lazy. I like to work. Lies. Anyways, that's driving. That will automatically turn over. Now, people get these two confused. When do I use this? When do I use this? If you're looking at the rule book, this bed is supposed to be only when you're relaxing, when you're not doing anything work related. If you're doing paperwork for the company, you could probably use it. I don't think it's that big of a deal. If you're laying in bed just watching YouTube, if you're working with a refrigerated trailer and you're just laying in bed waiting to get loaded, you might want to use this one for a little bit, but I'll explain that one later. This is mainly for rest. Technically unloading, even though you're chilling in your cab, you might want to use this a little bit, at least for like 15 minutes, just to show them, because again, in countries like Poland, they will get you because you only use this, and they'll be like, well, what do you do? Do you just drive and sleep? Is that all you do? So you do want to use this. Now, this technically is supposed to be used for anything work-related that's not driving. If you're changing a light bulb on the truck, you're supposed to use this. If you're even washing your truck when you're doing your 45-hour break, you need to use this. Do not do that, because if you do take this and put it on during your break, it will say you didn't do a full break. So never mess with that during your 45-hour break. But mainly whenever you're doing anything with this, it's supposed to be this. If you're unloading, loading, it's supposed to be that. What other situations are there? Basically, if you're doing anything work-related during the work week, use this. It'll just help you in the long run. If you are working with a reefer, you're like, hey, but Dave, I back up into the door and I really don't do anything. At least set it for like 15 minutes. You got unloaded in 15 minutes, 20 minutes max. I've been unloaded in places in like 5-7 minutes, so it's reasonable. But like set it for a little bit so they know you at least did a little bit of work. Obviously, working with a reefer, it's working with a reefer. So if you guys got any questions, leave them in the comments down below. And yeah, but I think I explained everything fairly well. Again, this is how I did it. I've been driving for 2.5 years and I've never gotten a fine for driving time. Also, remember to set your starting country and ending country. And that's pretty much it. So yeah. All right, as I get into by the window because it gives me the best sunlight, probably doesn't make me look the best. But anyways, that's the way I did it. Let's keep that in mind, fellas. That's the way I did it. 2.5 years without a fine. Yeah, you also have to enter countries and stuff, but I talked about that. Also, another thing that you might happen is you might overwork your e-log. Now, it happens, you just don't, you get stuck in traffic, construction happens, something. So basically what happens is you print out a ticket through your tachograph and write on the back what happened. For example, the main excuse that is mostly written is no parking. You could write it in English and then explain it more in your language. As long as there's something on the back, Poland, for example, loves those tickets. France, they throw them out. It really depends on the country, but they could save your ass. So just, keep them. So yeah, I've had mine's is construction to parking, traffic to parking, no parking, going home, for example. Poland sometimes lets you go home depending on how much you overwork. If you don't overwork it by 15 minutes, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. If you overwork 16 minutes, they'll give you a fine for all 15 minutes you overworked. It's kind of like this culture type of thing. You could overwork 15. It's better not to, but it does happen. So just keep in mind, if you can overwork it, just keep those checks. But obviously, it's better to have a clean book. I've never had a fine. I've had a bunch of those tickets in my book. They've looked at them. They were cool with it. They didn't give me a fine. So just try to work with them. Also, what I've noticed is a lot of people ask me, is there a lot of English speaking countries? Not really. Poland's really bad at it. Czech Republic doesn't speak English at all. Austrians, Germans understand it, but just don't talk it for some reason. Like, you could tell that they understand what you're saying, but they don't want to speak back to you. Netherlands, Belgium, all of Scandinavia, perfectly fine. You can speak English. My country, Lithuania, you could probably maybe sometimes find someone in English, but very rarely more Russian. Latvia is the same thing. Russian, Estonia, Russian. Where else have I been? France, they speak French. Obviously, the UK is English, but very rarely. You're gonna have to learn hand gestures and, you know, stuff like that. So they'll sometimes be like, "Oh, Ramtu," and stuff like that. So, like, if they get too frustrated with you, they will. Just don't take it to, you know, don't get offended by it if they start yelling at you and like, "Oh, go to Ramtu." It's like, okay, cool, bro. Like, relax, man. It's all cool. I don't know your language, and because you start yelling louder doesn't mean I'm gonna learn it. So it is what it is. The job is still doable, even though there is a language barrier, but nonetheless. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll catch you later. I'm going to go edit it right now so I can upload it on Friday. It's currently Monday. I guarantee it still won't be up until like Friday because I could edit the video, I could get everything done, but uploading, for some reason, is really hard for me. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll catch you guys next time. Also, I should start working, so in June you should start getting videos. If you have any more trucking videos you want me to help with, again, you will get my perspective. Again, I have no fines. If you want, you can leave a comment down below and maybe I'll make a video about it. See you next time. Peace.